Yes, yes, yes. Yes, I'm happy because I just perfected a very easy opening that, as always, is going to give us some amazing results. We're going to play an opening that looks pretty normal, but if your opponent plays normally, they're going to lose a pawn right in the opening, and a very important pawn at that. And that's if they're lucky, because we're going to set more than one trap, and it's going to be practically impossible for them to avoid all of them. So get ready for this video, and let's get started. How are we going to start, chess teacher? Well, after the double king's pawn, the two most commonly played moves in the chess world, we'll start with knight to f3, logically attacking the king's pawn. They'll obviously defend it with the knight to f6. If you've played a million games, this has happened to you practically a million times, right? And we'll start with an extremely well-known opening that we've seen trillions of times on the channel, the Spanish opening, or Ruy Lopez. Bishop to b5. Up to this point, everything is completely normal. Chess teacher, here they can play a lot of moves, among them the most popular, a6 to chase away this bishop, knight to f6, or developing this bishop. Don't worry, because our plan works in all the variations. That's why I'm so happy today. Pay attention, okay? Don't try to memorize every single move by heart, because that's really complicated. Obviously, if you can, that's great, right? But what you need to do is try to think and understand the plans I'm going to teach you. Because if you understand the plans, even if your opponent doesn't do exactly what I'm going to show you, you'll still be able to make more or less similar plans to reach the same result. All right, so what do we do when they kick out this bishop, which is what they're going to do in most cases? Simply move it back to this square here while we keep targeting the knight. One of the most common ways for black to continue is to chase away this bishop with b5. We'll see it, don't worry, it's very simple. Another very popular move is knight to f6, which gives us a bit more trouble because they're threatening our pawn on e4. Pay attention to the surprising move that I've already shown you a few times on the channel, and it's the key to this video. Queen to e2. Trust me, friends, this move is going to help you win a ton of games. Why? Because it has hidden plans that aren't at all obvious for our opponent, and most likely, they won't be able to stop the threats. For example, here, a move like bishop to c5 or bishop to e7, just normal development, would already lose the central pawn because they've stopped defending the d5 square. Look, we simply capture the knight, and when they recapture, we just recapture again, and now we have an extra pawn. In this kind of variation, there's nothing like queen to d4 that we need to worry about, because with our queen on e2, we've got everything under control. So check this out, okay? A move as simple as developing the bishop after queen to e2 would already allow us to win a pawn. But of course, chess teacher, this is very easy to avoid. I simply prevent you from capturing my knight with b5. It's that easy. Correct. That's absolutely fine, because here we still have plans that are even stronger than before. Now, the first move is obvious, right? Bishop to b3. We reposition this bishop. If you like playing the Italian opening, this is very similar, because this bishop is now placed on the same diagonal as in the Italian opening. That's all there is to it. Very good. So how could we continue? Well, here the most common moves are bishop to c5, bishop to e7 if they're more passive, or d6. It really doesn't make much difference to us. Let me show you, for example, what happens against this bishop to c5. Simply put, we already have a very good position here, and remember this move. A 4, a wonderful move. Wonderful, and why's that? Well, because we're creating a very strong threat. If your opponent ignores everything here, we can simply capture this pawn, and not only have we traded pawns, but they can't recapture because they'd lose the rook, which is undefended. And if they don't recapture, we're threatening the knight, and then threatening the capture here as well, since it's extremely well defended. Of course, here, after the move 4, after this move right here, they have to react. Obviously, they can't castle. So what do they usually do? Well, obviously, capturing doesn't seem like the best idea, since it would once again open up the same diagonal for our bishop. What they usually do is simply advance. And now what, chess teacher? Well, it looks like we've run out of plans, right? Well, here comes one of the channel's missiles. Bishop takes on f7, a spectacular bishop sacrifice, and at this moment it can be done for the following reason. Because now, since we have the queen on e2, she can come in and wreak havoc. How? Queen to c4, check, and on top of that, I'm going to take the bishop. If they move the king aside, we take the bishop. If they try to defend with the pawn, it's going to be even worse, because when we capture this bishop, we're also threatening this knight. And a variation that I really like, for example, is here pretending that I wanted to take the queen, I take the knight, I give up the queen, because as you can see, after knight takes e5, I'm going to give check and take the queen. The key to this opening is this queen to e2, and remember some very important. First, as you know, if your bishop is attacked, you need to reposition it. If not, you'll always have the threat of capturing this knight and then winning a pawn. All right, let's suppose they've seen the threat and now decide to play in a more passive way. Instead of going with bishop to c5, which we already saw what we needed to do in that case, do you remember? A 4, right? Let's go over everything again because my goal is for you to play this yourselves later and have it absolutely clear. A 4, okay? Creating all those threats, and then bishop takes on f7 to win this bishop. But of course, if they play bishop to e7, what happens then? Now, we no longer have the bishop in front of us here, so we can't win it. This bishop takes on f7 tactic doesn't work anymore. Don't worry, because there are plenty other tactics that do work. We'll still start with this a4, because nothing stops us from doing that, you see? The important thing is to understand the concept, right? Understand not just the moves, but what's behind them, the plans. Of course, it's the same as before, right? If they stay put, we win. If they capture, they leave us with a fantastic position. But what if they advance? Well, advancing is the correct option. And then, obviously, we're not going to play bishop takes f7 because now there's nothing to gain. But instead, we're going to play the strong move d4. It's simple if you apply this power. Look, if they try to challenge us, then we need to look for bishop takes f7. If they stay too passive back here, we strike with d4, because now we're threatening the capture to advance, and that's why here the only good move, and trust me, your opponents aren't going to find it, friends, because this move is only found if they're super strong, let's say, already masters, of course, or if they've studied this line 100%, is d5, okay? And creating these 4 central pawns that are touching each other, this just isn't human, okay? If they do it, well, we'll have an extremely balanced game and we'll have to stick to our plans. But what happens here, chess teacher, I'm telling you, okay? Because I've actually already tried it. The most common thing, without a doubt, is that they capture this pawn from you, that's typical, or they defend it. If they capture it, the only thing we have to do is this: push the pawn to e5. Look, our objective was the following. What was our objective, huh? What was it? As you may have noticed yourselves, we had a little interruption, but look at this next part. The goal is to divert the e5 pawn so we can advance, okay? So if they let us, we advance. This knight can't move toward the center because both squares are completely covered by our pieces. So what they can do is either retreat, in which case we've already won the game with this simple move. See how simple it is? We have open lines, we can coordinate our pieces. Queen and bishop work together to deliver checkmate, and even though it might look like a child's threat, it can't be stopped, because if they push the pawn to e5, we'll capture it en passant. If they bring the knight to h6, we'll simply take it, and then we go back to delivering this checkmate. So here, if they move the knight back, they're going to lose the game, right? After this advance. And if it's forward, all we have to do is force it back, because it can only go to this square. Obviously, I won't even mention trying to jump here, because that would be completely losing, right? We advance this pawn here, and the knight has no squares left, of course. If it comes forward here, then what we have to do is either play h3 or queen to e4, which I actually like even more because it centralizes the queen. If they try to defend it, well, on the next move we play h3, okay? But our goal is to get the knight to leave, and once it does, we simply take it out. Look how simple it is. It's a simple plan, all right? And we end up with a game that's totally, well, on a silver platter for us. We're going to capture this pawn. The black king is in terrible shape. They won't be able to castle short, they won't be able to castle long, they'll have to stay in the center. We'll castle, the knight goes here, the other one captures, and the rook comes in. You're going to have an extremely easy time winning this game. No, and be careful because they could get into serious trouble. For example, if they play bishop to e7 passively, we know to come in with d4. And if they play d6, which is common, they've actually lost the game immediately. Well, remember that first. And I always recommend this to you. Play this a 4, and it's a good reminder so we don't forget, like I did in the video. Let's try not to forget this in our games. This works really well for us, especially so we can advance this pawn, right? So that this pawn can advance and we have the c4 square free for our queen. This is important. You know, if they don't advance, that's better for us. But if they do and make the right move, remember, bishop e7, d4, and d6 is a mistake. Magnus Carlsen made this mistake. Magnus Carlsen made this mistake, so if Magnus Carlsen can do it, how could your opponents not make it too? Let's see. So we win as simply as with queen to c4, just like I was telling you. That's why it came to mind that I had forgotten about this queen to a4 move. It's as simple as a double attack. I'm attacking the knight, and I'm also threatening checkmate. Almost on f7. So if they block the check, I just take the knight. Free piece. And if they try to defend the knight, that's even better, because simply, logically, not this way, because that would be mate, right? Let's suppose they try to defend it this way. So we give a check, bring in the bishop as well, and that would already be checkmate. On the other hand, if they try to escape by moving this knight, which would be their other option, for example, right? We're threatening the knight, we're threatening the. Imagine they try, for example, to move this knight forward to create an escape route for the king so it's not mate. So we check, and then we simply give this check with the bishop, which allows us to win the rook. Do you see it? You don't need to memorize the moves. Just try to understand the concepts, because you'll definitely find ways to keep attacking, and you'll probably win a piece along the way. There's something I haven't mentioned to you, and it's extremely easy to punish. Let's suppose, for example, right, that they chase away this bishop. I don't care if you play b5 now or later, okay? At some point, you're going to develop this knight, and above all, make sure to play queen to e2, which is literally what we're studying in this video. We've seen what happens if they develop the bishop here and here, but what happens, chess teacher, if they stay extremely passive with this d6? I don't have anything to attack with, right? I don't have any pieces to launch an attack. They've got everything really well defended. Well, that's why I was telling you this opening is so simple. I don't care. A 4 again? This is the move we're always going to use. If they take, it would actually be even worse now, because look how poorly defended the knight is. If they do nothing, I'll take the pawn, and then you're either going to lose the rook or end up at a material disadvantage, and that's why you'll have to push forward, no doubt about it. And once you push forward, we've already won the game with the same sacrifice as before. Bishop takes on f7, you take my bishop, and again, queen to c4 check, and I'm going to take your knight. It's as simple as that. And be careful, because I've seen this mistake many times. They simply don't realize it, and also allow this check, and I'm going to take this knight here too. Well, and in this case, they can't go here because the queen is there, right? Imagine here, boom, we'd even win their queen. This is, well, already total disaster. Chess teacher, the million-dollar question. Don't black have a way to defend against this attack? Well, of course they do, obviously. However, it's very hard to find. Not the first move, but the whole sequence. Look, here's a very simple game where black played much better. They simply applied the same plan, right? They chased away the bishop, then played knight to f6. Remember, they attack our pawn, queen to e2 to defend, b5 obviously necessary, because otherwise we have bishop takes knight, and at this point, black played bishop to e7. Well, they chose the passive approach. Obviously, white played a 4, the move we absolutely have to make. First of all, the only correct move to defend this is rook to d8. Not capturing, not waiting, not advancing. Rook to d8 is the right move, okay? So, well, we keep going with our plans, obviously. After the exchanges, then the player with the white pieces decided to castle. Look, black is playing extremely well here, and you'll see that in just 5 moves, they're going to end up in a pretty delicate position. d5 in this case, trying to gain the initiative, and after pawn takes pawn and knight takes pawn, white played knight to c3. The king is castled, white is putting on the pressure, the a-file is clearly all ours, and black is definitely not comfortable at all. The knight is being threatened by 2 pieces. Black tried to defend it, but that wasn't the only threat. There was also the b5 pawn, which can now be captured by the knight. In short, there are a lot of weak points where, at this moment, the white pieces already have an extra pawn and an enviable position. Yes, black has played correctly. However, white is the one calling the shots in this position. And now I'm going to clear up a question that a lot of you have, and I've set up the computer to show you properly. Look, this is the official academy of the channel. Well, you all know that you've seen it at some point, and if not, I'm going to show it to you now because you have two options, and I think it hasn't been made very clear. The first is to access the academy, where all my classes are available to you. Yesterday's lock technique video is spectacular. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. And check out Flavia's classes too. Here you have all of them, both pending and completed. So far, we've already done all of these. They're half-hour, 45-minute classes, perfect for taking a step beyond what you get from YouTube videos. And you also have complete and total access to the full ChessMind platform, which you can also access as a standalone subscription. However, if you join through the Academy, it's entirely included at no extra cost, okay? With your daily lesson, right now I have it set to Italian, but you can set it to English, Spanish, or whatever language you want, okay? You can complete your daily mission, which is amazing because it connects with your chess.com or Lichess account. And so the lesson is personalized just for you. There are 10 amazing exercises tailored to you, and every day you have them to keep practicing. And besides that, here you can practice openings, middle game, end games, but with a ton of options, okay? You're gonna love it. I 100% recommend you do one thing. If you want to train at 100%, join the Academy, where you get 7 days for just €1 or $1. That's it. Or if you prefer and just want to access the app, I'll also leave it for you in the description. So I'll leave everything down here for you to try it out. I hope you loved this video. And of course, friends, we'll see each other tomorrow in the next one. Goodbye.